Hey, it's your girl KV.
And Celine.
And we're back with another episode of the Hood Health Report. Today, we are talking about a summertime topic, which is melanin and sunscreen. For years, we have seen or heard that Black people don't need sunscreen because our melanin protects us. So today we wanted to dig into that myth and kind of expound on it a bit more.
So, I'm just going to open it up with a question. Growing up, did you believe that you needed or did not need sunscreen? What was your thoughts?
I don't even think sunscreen was really on my mind at all. I can't even remember it being a topic to know, oh, well, we don't need it or we do need it. We just went to the beach.
Yeah.
Like, granted, we're not like, I didn't grow up in a beach town to where I was outside so much that it mattered so much, but I was like, you know, a summer camp kid outside cheerleading all the time. But as much as I cheered and majored in the hot sun, no, it was never a thing of like, make sure you have your sunscreen. So it was definitely like, you know how your grandma be like, oh, you getting dark. Oh, look at the summer. Look at your summer color. You getting dark. So we were just used to being 2-3 different colors throughout the year because of not wearing sunscreen.
Yeah, so similar. I grew up running track. I did not use sunscreen.
Right.
I didn't use sunscreen until I got out of college, and I ran track all the way through college. I did not know that I needed it, surprisingly. Even though I was in the public health field, I was just like, well, I mean, I'm not getting burned. I don't think anything of it. I just think my skin is getting darker, it gets lighter.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. A lot of Black people in general don't believe that we need to use sunscreen. And that, my friends, may or may not be a myth. We're going to debunk that, if you may. So the first article, it just went into, do we need to use sunscreen? Do Black people really need to use sunscreen? And like we've been talking about, melanin, first of all, I guess we should explain what melanin is. It's in your skin, and it's like pigmentation. So basically how you're pigmented. And it protects you from the sun up into a certain amount. And so the article basically says everyone needs to use sunscreen, no matter how dark you are, or else you could be at risk for sunburn. There are a lot of misconceptions about Black people not needing to use sunscreen, and a lot of it just boils down to, you know, we didn't know no better. Our parents didn't know no better. Our grandparents didn't know no better.
And also the sun, like a lot of sun exposure can cause you to age faster. So, you know, Black don't crack, you know, that's just another thing that kind of lends to the fact on why we don't feel like we need sunscreen, because we don't age as fast as other races. So, you know, a lot of the things that we just take for, you know, oh, that's just Black culture, lends to the fact that we probably should use sunscreen regardless. So they said while skin cancer tends to be diagnosed more in white people, one study found that Black people were 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with advanced stage melanoma and 1.5 times more likely to die from it. So since we aren't knowledgeable about the fact that we need sunscreen, a lot of people will, you know, have a lesion or something on their skin that they might not associate with skin cancer and not get it checked out for so long that by the time they do, it's in an advanced stage. So we're still more likely to die from it, even though white people are 20 times more likely to have skin cancer.
And then also I saw that it said 47% of dermatology residents or dermatologists said they had been adequately trained on skin conditions for Black people, which was kind of like, you know, shocking, because you would think that they would have a more knowledge on everybody's skin because they're going to be treating everyone. So it's important that as a Black person that you do your research and, you know, you are well knowledge on your skin, and if you see like little bumps popping up or moles and stuff like that, that you're checking on those things to make sure that you don't necessarily have cancer.
And the most shocking part about that figure was it was a survey done in 2011 where dermatologists were not trained on black skin. And so it's just lends to the history of exclusion and poor treatment towards people of color. So whether it's, studies on us or whatever, studies on skin cancer, we're being excluded from. So we don't know that this will be such a thing for us to pay attention to because we're excluded from these conversations. So it's definitely something that is recently, I would say, with over the past 10 years, recently being pushed to us that yes, we need sunscreen too. So like she said, the false beliefs that black people's skin, protects us from sun exposure, which it does to a certain degree, but not fully. We would still need sunscreen to block the sun from harming our skin.
So, another thing that I just want to mention is that, like we've been saying, everyone can get skin cancer regardless of your age, skin, gender, race. It's not inevitable for you to not get get cancer, like if that is the case if you're outside and you're taking in lots of sun. So it's important to make sure that you're putting it on. There's different types of sunscreen, which is something that a lot of black people might not realize too. They don't necessarily just have one kind of sunscreen, and I know that's a lot of reason why some people don't necessarily like using sunscreen. I was one of those people that I didn't like the white cast. Yeah, it bleeds on your skin. And that might be due to the fact that you're using a mineral, I think it's called mineral.
Or physical sunscreen.
Yes, physical versus mineral. So mineral at least usually is that white cast. The physical.
No, physical and mineral are the same.
Okay, yeah, physical and mineral are the same. Make sure I get that correct, okay. So yes, if you're using that, you might get that white cast, which is not very appealing to black people. They do have another type of sunscreen. Let me go to it.
So chemical sunscreen, instead of reflecting the sun rays, these sunscreens have chemical ingredients that absorb UV rays. So there's a little bit of controversy around chemical sunscreen because it might affect hormonal functions because it is, absorbing these chemicals versus reflecting the UV rays like the physical sunscreen does. So I think another article kind of digs into that a little bit more. So one thing that I never, I never knew what it stood for. I just always knew, SPF, SPF. SPF stands for sun protection factor. I thought it was way more of a scientific word. I was like, sun protection factor, that's what SPF is? Okay. So whichever sunscreen you choose, make sure it's labeled broad spectrum or that the label says it protects against UVA and UVB rays, the kind that will damage your skin. You should apply sunscreen every day if you're going outside and reapply it every 2 hours or right after sweating or swimming. And I don't wear it every day. I do have sunscreen that I have been using more, especially since, I've been more into skincare things now that I'm getting, above that 28 range. So it's been something that's more so in my skincare regimen in the past few years. So I don't really put it on as much as I should. I don't even think I put some on today, actually.
I did, just because I knew we were doing this episode. I was like, I gotta be on top of it.
So the thing about it, which is a lot of things, when I put, can you taste it?
Yeah, sometimes you get close to your lip.
No, just the absorption and period. Putting the sunscreen on your face and on your arms, it's you kind of get that metallic taste in your mouth because, your skin is absorbing that sunscreen, which a lot of things, a lot of foods and stuff can give you that metallic taste. It's not necessarily a deterrent per se for me, but it is something to be mindful of.
I just know this because I looked it up before, but when you're applying your sunscreen, make sure that you're applying enough sunscreen too, because sometimes people just put a little dab and they're like, oh, I put some sunscreen on. No, they said that the way you're supposed to measure out your sunscreen is 2 hands, these 2 hands. And
fingers.
Wow. It's the morning time. Is it? No, it's not even the morning time. These 2 fingers. Yes, fingers. And you just measure out the whole finger and then you wipe it over your face. That's the amount for your face. A lot of people don't put the amount that they're needed on their body. So it's not actually,
Detecting, yeah.
detecting or helping them fight off the sun rays.
So with the next article, should black people wear sunscreen? It made me laugh looking at that little picture. We're going to have to post it on the screen. It's a little picture of like a lady, like a mom spraying sunscreen on her son, and he's just like, oh, like it's cold, and he is not used to that. But that made me laugh because I'm like, we need to see the actual images to, you know what I mean, for it to ring true sometimes. So that was, impactful. So this article says that anyone can get skin cancer regardless of age, gender, or race, but because people of color are left out of the clinical trials, like I mentioned, and treatments, there is very little research available about dark-skinned people and skin cancer, which raises questions about who is being considered when organizations make these public health recommendations. And also, as they teach dermatologists and other residents about the skincare.
It also says that black people experience sunburn that can be painful and cause peeling just like white people. I know a lot of times black people are like, well, we can't get burnt, but that's not necessarily the case. You can get burnt, you can have, peeling occur. And if you're exposed to sunlight, black people can also suffer from hyperpigmentation and visible signs of aging, which is something that I've noticed for myself. It's like the hyperpigmentation, especially on my face and stuff like that.
Exactly, around my glasses. I've noticed it around my glasses, but like this will be a little bit darker than the area right around my eyes because of whatever size glasses that I'm wearing at the time.
This article also kind of talked about what we talked about earlier, as far as how the certain chemicals can be in sunscreens that you just need to be mindful of, because those chemicals can affect, can affect urine and higher rates of endometriosis.
Yeah. That was a bit shocking to me. Like I knew that chemical sunscreens, as I mentioned in the previous article, could be some type of hormone disruptor, but when I saw that it was associated with higher levels of endometriosis and being found in the urine, that was a shock for me. I was surprised by that one.
So it's just be mindful, do your research, decide if you would like to use chemical versus using the mineral. It just depends on what you're doing, how much you're outside, what you're doing, if you're sweating, stuff of that nature.
So, and endometriosis is a condition in which cells similar to the lining of the uterus or endometrium grow outside of the uterus. So it's something that affects the female reproductive system. We always get the brunt of everything. So the sunscreens that contain benzophenones and oxybenzones are two estrogenic compounds. So those chemical sunscreens kind of mess up the estrogen hormone function in the body, which we mentioned earlier. Thanks. Shout out to the producers for calling that to our attention.
And with that being said, if it affects your estrogen levels, that can lead to a variety of other diseases. So of course you're getting the benefits of like not necessarily getting skin cancer, but you need to be mindful of the fact that you might be getting more exposed to other diseases if you are using lots of chemical sunscreens.
And it's one of those things that like can go undetected. So when women, wind up with these issues and not knowing what for, and then who's to say that the medical professional is well versed in these things as well? As we see from this article, a lot of them don't even understand dark skin and sunscreen in the first place. So it kind of lends back to, us being excluded from these studies and us getting the shorter end of the stick on the medical face of it. So more things to think about there. So one thing somebody mentioned in this article that was like, oh, wow, didn't think about that. If UV exposure was such a problem for skin cancer, you see a massive epidemic in sub-Saharan Africa. They don't have the same level of sunscreen promotion that they do here, and you hear nothing about it because the because there's probably no association. So that was very striking to me. And I had all these conspiracy theories in my head about it, but we won't dive into that.
I want to hear
here.
one. You do just the one.
No.
No.
I won't put on my tinfoil hat today. But it did really, make me want to understand that more and look at if that is the case, or if, we don't know what the culture is over in sub-Saharan Africa. So even though they don't have sunscreen as we know it, they still may have something that they use to protect themselves from the sun. So there's a lot of things that we can really look in to see if there is more health effective ways to protect ourselves from the sun, more so than just the typical sunscreen that leaves that metallic taste in your mouth that we tend to use here in America. So that might be something I,
Look
ends
into.
up looking
Now
at.
I feel like I want to look into that too, because that is something that I really wasn't thinking about. That hits on it.
What?
Y'all in Africa and y'all hear this, make sure y'all drop something in the comments for us.
That's so real. I got it's some people in Africa. I look at my demographics. We
Right.
got some people in
Yeah,
Africa
if you
that's
know
listening.
something that we don't know over here, please let us know.
Tag onto one of the pages, go onto the YouTube, leave a comment. Enlighten us.
Please.
Enlighten us if you're in another country, and how is the sunscreen being pushed there, and what's the health factors behind that? We would definitely want to know. So this article goes into melanin a little bit more, kind of describes that. So dark-skinned people don't have more melanocytes. Melanocytes. We're gonna say it like that. The cells that produce melanin. We don't have more than light-skinned people. Ours tend to be more productive. So because of the melanin, scientists believe that darker skins absorb between 50 to 70% less of the sun's ultraviolet light than paler skin tones. So they don't know this to be exact, but these are like some estimates that, studies can show you that. Stop laughing.
My man, they got lazy melanin.
LOL.
Not lazy melanin.
Not lazy melanin.
So this next article goes through myths versus facts. Do people of color need sunscreen and sun protection? So the myth is that sun doesn't damage dark skin, but that, as we said, is a myth. And the fact is, any type of sunburn, whether it's just a gentle tan, it causes disruption to cell growth. And it could cause an overgrowth of cells, which would be cancer. And even if it doesn't get the cancer, it still alters our DNA a bit once we get that heavy sunburn. So just 1 to 2% of all skin cancers occur in blacks, 2 to 4% occur in Asians, and 4 to 5% in Hispanics. But as we mentioned, many darker skin patients think that since they won't get cancer, that by the time that they get a suspicious spot, it's, pretty developed and advanced stages of cancer. So next we're going to go into the 3 most common types of skin cancer in people of color.
So the first one I'm going to mention is the squamous cell carcinoma, and it's the most common cancer in darker skin, and it's caused by sun exposure and HPV, which is human papillomavirus. And if you have a compromised immune system, you're at greater risk for both UV radiation and HPV-induced skin cancers.
Which was crazy to me because it's like, why does everything go back to our uterus?
Man, you would think, yeah.
Like, why does everything, like HPV, like that was...
Yeah. And then they also said about the squamous cell carcinoma, the symptoms, they include painful or tender bumps, growing warty lesions in your genital areas, thick scaly patches that crust or bleed. So if you have any of that going on, possibly go to the doctor, get checked. You might have squamous cell carcinoma.
The next one is basal cell carcinoma, which looks basically the same in all skin colors, but the signs of basal cell The signs of basal cell in darker skin include non-painful bumps that is translucent in appearance, bleeds easily, has flecks of globules of pigment like a dark marble suspended in gelatin. Most of these cases of basal cell carcinoma in pigmented skin are directly related to sun exposure.
And then lastly is melanoma. Melanoma isn't as common as the other skin cancers, but it's the most deadly. And that's because of its how rapidly it spreads to most of the organs. New or changing dark, the way you can tell that if you have melanoma is new or changing dark spots, so brown, black, or tan, particularly on the soles of your like palms or your feet. They're asymmetrical in shape and they're irregular borders. So like if it's not like a complete circle, if it's like, got the little wavy ends. And it's if you have like darker lines in your nails, there are more than 3 millimeters, that could be a sign of it as well. And dark spots on your lips as well could be a sign of having melanoma.
So another thing about this article, they mentioned reggae music legend Bob Marley had a type of melanoma that appeared first under his big toenail. And since there's less pigment in these areas of the skin, that's where they tend to show up. Like she said, the soles of the feet, underneath the nails, the palms of the hands. So there are also genetic factors that predispose people to melanoma as well.
And this article also goes into like getting tested for skin cancer, which I know a lot of Black people don't even do as well. They usually just, I can only speak for myself, but I know I've never been to a dermatologist. And I'm actually going to go for the first time, because after I read this, I was like, I just want to go to make sure, just check everything out. And so the way you get tested is you should do like a baseline screening around the age of 20, which most people miss, but it's never too late to start. And then if there are no concerns, you should try to go every 2 to 3 years after that, just to make sure that there's nothing new that has changed on your body.
Okay, and that's it for that article. Let's see what I have on this last one. I don't think this last one really had anything either. I think everything was repeat.
Well, I got a little bit.
More.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, it's just some tips and stuff. Let me read it real quick.
Provide resources?
What do you mean?
Are y'all going to provide like resources, like say where people can get tested
I can say that you can go to the dermatologist. Like that's where they say to go to like a dermatologist if you have like moles and stuff like that. I guess I could have said that. Okay.
They did.
Yeah, it depends on how the shape of them, because I get freckles and stuff too. Like I get like random moles and stuff like that. So it's also the ones that pop up and they're like.
Right. Yeah.
Not the flat ones. The flat ones usually aren't bad. It's the ones that like have the circular. I can't really. It's like spear shape.
Like a globe shape. Yeah, my grandmother gets them often.
That's to say my
she's been tested for hers. It's not skin cancer. She's had some removed, but yeah, definitely get those checked out.
I just started getting paranoid.
I know, right? Because I have this mole on my neck. I'm like,
Yeah, I started seeing new moles and stuff. I'm like, where'd this come from? I'm like, So lastly, I just want to go over a couple of sun protection tips for Black people. Make sure that if you are outside in the sun that you're applying sunscreen, whether or not that is chemical or if you like the physical, just figuring out whichever one works best for you. If you're going to be in water, it might be best for you to use the mineral sunscreen. If you're going to just be sweating as well, mineral might be the better option, but also just look into it and see which one works best for you. If you are applying it, make sure that you apply it at least every 2 hours. If you're in the water, make sure you're applying it a little bit more regularly, or if you're sweating, make sure you're applying it more regularly as well. As I mentioned before, when you are applying it to your face, make sure that you're using your 2 fingers, using the whole finger to apply that amount across your face. And as far as body, you want it to do the same thing. You want it to actually cover the area. You don't want to just use like a little dab and think that that's going to protect you. make sure that if you're not able to wear sunscreen for any reason, that you are wearing loose fitting, long clothing. That's what it's like. I think that's what it's called, like loose linen. Yeah, they mention loose linen. And then also making sure that you wear hats to protect yourself as well, or glasses, sunshades. It also goes into basically how to tell if you might have skin cancer, which is doing the ABCDEs. And that's look for asymmetrical shapes, irregular borders, multiple dark colors, the diameter greater than 6 millimeters, and the evolution in size as far as the shape and color among any moles. Okay guys, we've come to the end of the episode. If you have any more tips to give us as far as how we can protect ourselves from, sun related cancer and other things, please go ahead and drop those in the comments. Make sure you like us on Instagram, Twitter, all social medias. As far as our Twitter, you can follow us on Hood Health Pod. As far as our Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything else is Hood Health Report. And if you want to see our faces, you can tune in on our YouTube channel, which is KVENT.
KAYVEEENT. The playlist is Hood Health Report.
And have a great rest of y'all's day.
Bye.